The bass has dropped, and we are live on Twitch. We're live on Spreaker, and we've had a couple of games in the MLS's back tournament. Lots of things to get into. This show is going to be all about your reactions to what we've seen since we wrapped yesterday. Orlando wins their first game in the tournament last night. They beat Miami, late goal from Nani. Philadelphia gets the win this morning over New York City. Second half goal from Alejandro Bedoya. Last night late, Sky Blue with the upset of the day. They beat the Houston Dash. They get their first win in the NWSL Challenge Cup. All of that's fair game, along with all the other news and rumor and innuendo and everything else going on in the soccer world right now. So here's how you join the conversation. You watch on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. You chime in on Twitter, @SoccerDownHere, or you shoot us an email, soccerdownhere@gmail. Whichever way you want to talk to us, we'll take your conversation, and we'll fire something back to you. That's what we're here for. I know we've got a lot of stuff, John, and I just want to just riff off what's going on with everybody, chiming in from last night's games, this morning's games. Let's start with this morning since it's fresh. What are the people saying?
All right. Well, so, of course, I was at the back end of the line.
Well, we're not going to go backwards. We're going to go forwards. So that's how it works. I always try to keep you on your toes.
Yes. Tafka says, Andre Blake with an awesome match. I give it an 8 out of 10. Bedoya's mustache, 0 out of 10.
Oh, Bedoya can have whatever kind of mustache he wants if he's scoring goals like that. I'm completely fine with it. Andre Blake was the man of the match, though. I'm with Taylor Twellman. I think he voiced his disagreement with the man of the match on the broadcast, and I was with him. Blake made a couple of big saves, and you don't win that match without Andre Blake. For Philadelphia, I was just really curious to see what they looked like without Harris Medunjanin because, you look at the numbers. Last year, Harris Medunjanin in Philadelphia's possession, how involved was he? He was one of the most involved players in the league in terms of passes per game and touches. So his replacement, Jose Martinez, is a very different kind of player. And you compare the numbers and you start to look, okay, Medunjanin was a guy who 70 or so passes per game last year. What did Martinez do today? 31. That's a big difference. So where is it going to come from? And I think we saw today one player that picks up some of that is Jamiro Montero. Montero in an 8 role is the true box-to-box that you have in this team. He's able to do a lot of the work to free up Bedoya to look for those moments to join into the attack. It frees up Brendan Aronson as well. Montero has to pick up some of the slack in possession that you lost with Medunjanin. I liked Martinez. I think he's a better defender than Medunjanin has ever been in this league, but it changes the personality of the team. I also thought Philadelphia looked better when Ilsinho came off. Now, you don't have Sergio Santos, so you started Ilsinho up top, and John Champion and Taylor Twellman talked about it a lot, and I think they nailed it. You can't press the same way with Ilsinho up top. He's just not that player. You could have pressed more when he came off. I think they probably should have. I think they dropped off a little bit too much at the very end. I think they'll pick that up as the tournament goes. But if Ilsinho's going to start up top, you've got to find some ways to protect him but still press. And you can do that, but it's going to take a little bit of time to work through that on the training pitch. I think Brendan Aronson can step up higher. It's almost like Aronson and Ilsinho switch when you're pressing. Ilsinho drops in a little bit deeper. Montero could step up a little bit higher. Bedoya could step up a little bit higher, whichever side the ball is on. And Aronson steps up higher for Ilsinho. He drops off behind the line and picks up the scraps. But that's going to take some time to work through. I think ideally it's going to be Sergio Santos up top with Kasper Shabilko. And Santos is a beast in the press. So you don't want to change too much of it, but it does affect the way you play. Philadelphia was not as good as they will be, but they were good enough. New York City had a lot of shots, a lot of chances, nothing to show for it. Got to start asking some questions about where the attack is for New York City.
And for me, I agree with you. I had Andre Blake as man of the match. The save on Hebert and then the save late on Gary Mackay-Steven. For me, it was like, yep, you preserved it. Yeah, for me, I looked at that and I'm like, Andre Blake was man of the match. But that was part and parcel of why.
The save on Hebert was world class. The one on Mackay-Steven, it was a good first touch from Gary Mackay-Steven, but he never really got going and made it a little easy for Blake. I mean, Blake, you see that happen so many times with goalkeepers who come out overly aggressive. Blake did not. He came out, took up his spot, took the angle away, and stayed big and made the save. The one on Hebert was just world-class because he's screened, I think, by the defender in front of him for most of it, and he still gets the touch and makes the big save. I thought he had one earlier, too, on Castellanos that Twellman thought he needed to push a little bit further wide. I think it was a really good shot from Castellanos. It was low and hard, kind of that worm burner that is a little tricky. Could Blake have done a little better with it? Sure, he could have pushed it wider, but I think it was another big save. And on the day, I mean, Andre Blake had 7 saves in a clean sheet. That's your man of the match.
Ricky Ricardo, I definitely valued NYCFC's talent and continuity over Philly, but they are surefire contenders to take this whole thing.
Philadelphia, I'm assuming?
Going by the modifier.
I'm thinking they're getting closer to that conversation. I don't know if I want to put them there just yet, but my question coming into this was, okay, you look at the East, you have Toronto, who got to MLS Cup last year. You have Atlanta, who lost in the Eastern Conference Final. You have New York City, who was the best team in the regular season. I thought there was a step down to Philadelphia and Columbus, and some people would probably put Columbus ahead of Philly. I think that's changed. I think Philadelphia is the number 3 now. We'll see about Columbus on Saturday when they play Cincinnati. We'll get a sense for what they are. New York City is the 5 for me, and they've got to show more in the attack to get back up into that top 3 conversation. I think Philadelphia is the team right below Toronto and Atlanta in the East at the moment.
Santa United's excited to talk MLS matches again, and one of the larger questions of the show is Joe Johnstone tried to sprint out and grab lunch before the show was actually going to start. I have to figure out if Joe actually got his lunch and made it back in time for the game.
Yeah, I planned really effectively because last night was, all right, I don't feel like cooking. I just want to get ready for the games and watch everything and see what this is going to look like. I keep forgetting that Jersey Mike's does delivery now. So did the Jersey Mike's and did the giant Jersey Mike's because I planned ahead because I knew it'd be half of it last night and half of it today. Mm-hmm. So at the hydration break, it was, okay, it's the Jersey Mike's break for me, so I'm going to go grab the sandwich. And I ate the sandwich, finished that, walked Gwen after the game, hop on here, good to go.
There you go.
It's planning.
Yes, it is planning. Taka has been a part of the discussion having to do with signage. Michael Head also got into it as well.
Oh, boy, here we go. What are the people feeling about the signage?
Tafka, alert. I don't give a crap about the Adidas logo displayed on the pitch. If Adidas paid money for it, then it helps with the inability to make any revenue this season. It's 2020. You do what you have to do to keep things going. In all caps, get over it.
Wow, okay, that was strong.
And let's see, Michael Head in his pros and cons, and this goes to the first match.
Yeah, we'll come back to all of Michael's, but what did he say about the signage? Because I want to talk about that.
Trying to sit here. Huge midfield sponsor, boo, with 3, 6, 7 O's.
That's a lot of O's.
And a too high camera position from Michael's perspective.
Not much you can do about that. The camera position is just all you can deal with. Let's start with the camera position because I think it's an easier conversation, and you can speak to this for sure more than I can. But just from a logistical standpoint, you're making field/studios at this complex. We know now there's 3 that are set for broadcast, and they have a 4th if needed. That's good to know because we did not know that yesterday. But they're not set up easily for broadcast. And if you look at it, the big wide shot, you see that the position is, I believe, usable for 2 fields. So you're set up to be able to handle that in one spot. You're not building 2 different spots. You're building one spot. It's got to be up high. I don't know if you could have went lower or not. I think lower you might have had less coverage of the near touchline. And when I first saw it, I was literally like, oh, no, I'm not going to be able to see what's going on there. I'm going to have to make sure I'm really strong on the shape and who's in that dead spot. But when you watch a couple games, it's a pretty small blind spot. It's not too bad because once you get out of the middle third, you're fine on the near touchline. Even once you get close to getting out of the middle third, you're fine. And from the touchline out into the field, it's not very far either. It's a blind spot. It is not perfect. It's got to be hard for a producer to make the decision on when to cut, when to switch. But I don't know what else they could have done in that regard.
Yeah, there were 2 things. Initially, I think that the camera itself was too far back in the platform because there was one moment when it panned to the left and you caught a light pole. Mm-hmm. And I think that camera was adjusted and moved forward, so when it would work its way to the left, you could see near side, left-hand corner, near corner down the left-hand side.
I didn't notice the light pole. They did move it. They had to, because I didn't notice it when I saw you and Jarrett mention it in the chat, and I saw other people mention it. Then I started looking for it, and I didn't see it. So they had to have moved that. Literally,
you move that camera forward to accentuate its position. And it was a part of the conversation last night as well that tower that hosts those broadcast cameras, as you mentioned, it's for 2 fields. It is basically camera aiming one way, turn the camera around, you're aiming at the other field. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot of room for that tower to exist. So that's why that blind spot is existing at the moment. You can't back that tower up. It doesn't have any place else to go. No. And that's why you've got that blind spot. So it's just the logistics of having to squeeze camera positions in between 2 soccer fields. And I give the MLS and ESPN a lot of credit for the logistics of that. At the same time, I also noticed looking at the high cameras that went against the backdrop, the all-blue backdrop, where they could superimpose ads, you saw local advertisers and local sponsors attached to the ends of that full bulletin board, which I thought was a nice touch to help the individual teams and their sponsors in these broadcast elements as well.
Yeah, it's essential. It's essential because you're not going to have as many local broadcasts this year. There's just no way you can. I mean, twofold. You're not playing as many games, and you've got all of this tournament going national, and you're probably going to have a good number of national broadcasts later. Look, you have to prioritize. The national broadcasts are the money. The local broadcasts for a lot of teams, not all, but a lot, are time buys or trades, and there's not a whole lot of financial gain from those. The ESPN, the Fox broadcast, the 2-day NA broadcast, that's where your money is, and you've got to have everything go to them. You got to fulfill them. And that's where you get back to the sponsor element, because I've seen so many people, not even just the Adidas logo in the middle that's superimposed, it's all the ads, and it's like, oh, there's ads, and I'm doing this, and I'm looking at Wells Fargo, and blah, 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 blah. Welcome to 2020, because there's just no other way around it. If you signed a deal with a sponsor for your jersey, the front of the jersey to be featured in 34 matches with X number on national TV, with X number on local TV, with X number of fans, well, you can't fulfill that. Yep. You cannot fulfill that. So then it's, well, hey, sponsor who is giving us a lot of money, we would like to keep said money, and what can we do to make this good for you? And that's where you start to get creative and you start to figure things out. That's why you have local ads on the screen for a nationally televised game. That's why you have additional ads on sleeves and on shorts, potentially in this tournament. That's why you're having to get creative. But that's 2020. There's no way around that. And, I mean, we've seen other leagues do these things too. That's the thing, is it's not I think a lot of people have portrayed it as, oh, MLS, like, here we go again. It's a worldwide thing of trying to make good on your sponsors. I don't think you got more money for those, in probably most cases, the overwhelming majority. I don't think Adidas gave you more money for the middle of the field.
Right.
I think that is literally Adidas outside of your TV deals. Outside of that, because that's the only other major dollar figure coming into the league from the outside of ticket sales and stuff like that. Adidas is the biggest sponsor of the league. Now, it's equipment and it's cash, but it is massive, and it's massively important. You can't make good without doing something additional for them. You cannot, because you're not playing as many games. You're just flat out not playing as many games. You have no fan engagement in the venue. All those things, you have to find something else. So you're doing this, which we've seen in Mexico with a lot of superimposed things, but not like this that's consistent and not during the run of play. Well, this is the next step. I'd rather have that than inserting commercials. I'd rather have that than doing the little screen and big screen idea to keep play going, but throwing an ad in like on a hydration break. Honestly, after about 10 minutes, I don't notice it. That's just me, and I think it's the reason I don't notice it is I've been involved in enough games in the NPSL and at the youth level where you're playing on a high school football field. You're playing on stitched-in football lines, and it is what it is. It's not ideal, but you get used to it. It doesn't bother me the way it does some. That doesn't mean it's right. It's just I understand why they're doing it. I don't think it's as intrusive as other things they could have done to try to make good on that sponsorship. In a normal year, you wouldn't do it. This is not a normal year, and this is not a normal situation. So you are figuring it out as best you can, and you're trying to make good so you don't have to give money back, because you need to make every dollar you can this year. Or more importantly, you need to keep every dollar you can this year and not have to give money back. And that's where I think it is with Adidas and all the other sponsors on their screens, which it's not that intrusive. It's just not to me. I mean, I'm watching the play. I'm not watching the blue screen as closely.
Breaking news sounder, please.
Oh, well, you should have motioned or something to me.
Tenorio, Reuter, Maurer all reporting Nashville SC is out of the MLS is Back tournament. More to come. No
surprise, and Ben Wright from Nashville has that Chicago will be moving over to Group B. Again, no surprise. You know, when you started to get those numbers and you started to figure out logistics and you started to look at recovery times, well, this is it. From a logistical standpoint, this is much easier than a 25-team tournament. I don't know how they would have gotten 3 games for Seattle, San Jose, and Vancouver. I don't know how they would have made all that work. Now it's very easy. You have one team move to that group, and it's a round robin. It's a straight round robin in every group. And you make up the game that was pushed back. It was originally Dallas. You make that up at the end, and you move forward. That's the best you can do. This is not ideal in any sense in that you have 2 teams that were not able to participate. But, you know, we talked about it coming into this. Dallas happened. Okay, you move on. Nashville, we had a pretty good sense that it was going to happen. It was kind of obvious from the things that have been said. You wanted to give them every opportunity. I think this is the best way to do it now that you have 2 games under your belt. You've shown that this tournament has value and this tournament is important. And now, look, you have to bite the bullet. Nashville is not able to play. Now, I still hold to this fact. I think it's very important to find out what happened with Dallas and Nashville. Because if you're going to play games in local markets, which is the intention after this, you can't have these breakdowns. You cannot have these breakdowns. Cannot happen. Because it's one thing for these teams to go into a bubble and then be quarantined away from everybody. But if you're going to host games and this is happening within your team, what is the comfort level in playing in your venue that you are hosting a game in when this is happening in your club? It can't be good. And I really do wonder, as more things come out about this, are we going to hear more about other teams pushing very hard to not have these two teams participate because of all the positive tests? Not that the league pushed it out, not that the teams withdrew themselves, but that other teams said, we're not comfortable because of the positive tests that they've had. I'll be curious to see where the story goes from here. I'm not surprised about this development at all. But what's next? That's the question.
Yeah, and so we'll keep an eye on that and the official word about shifting teams and groups and things like that. Back to the timeline, Daniel Price. Did y'all know that MLS is Back is sponsored by Adidas? I, for one, had no idea. I was very surprised, to tell you the truth. You couldn't even tell that Adidas had anything to do with this. Good on them.
Oh, everybody.
Brought to you by Flavortown SC.
Everybody. Get your jokes in. It's all good. Hey, what's really good is MLS not having to give money back to Adidas. That's what's really good. It's really good that we got these games in. It's really good that the players were able to use this platform. If you've not watched last night, go back and watch the broadcast and watch the opening to the match. One, you get a real sense of how long 8 minutes 46 seconds is. You think it's a long time until you have that presented to you in the way that it was last night. That was incredibly powerful. That was an incredibly powerful player-led movement. And there's a lot of great stories about how everything's come together. I think Justin Morrow, Earl Edwards Jr., a number of players have spoken about it since. And it was exactly why you do this. It's exactly why you do this tournament and why you give these players this platform. They're talking about it right now on First Take, and they're wondering what this means for the NFL and what kind of pressure this puts on the NFL to do things differently. MLS is out in front of this publicly, and then Philadelphia Union, raised the bar this morning. I think they, by not telling anybody the way they were going to do this and then presenting it right before kickoff, had the most impact. And you're not surprised that the Union would be out in front of this as well, because Jim Curtin's been very vocal and very eloquent about this. Alejandro Bedoya has been very outspoken. And you have a number of players in that team who are taking those leadership roles on in all of this. So all of these things that are happening over the last 24 hours in this league, you've got a team that's now not going to participate in the tournament. It hasn't been officially announced. It's a matter of time. You've got a statement that made front page in papers all over the country and is getting talked about in mainstream sports conversation and in non-sports conversation. You're getting also the soccer conversation. It's not just everything else. The soccer conversation has been strong. I think the intensity in these matches was good. Rustiness, yeah. A little disjointed, yeah. Intensity, very good. Very good. Good soccer. It was fun to watch. It wasn't the prettiest, but it was fun to watch. It's what you expect. I was far more entertained by these two games than I was by Liverpool-Everton in their first game back. It's hard to have these huge expectations when you're coming back off of this break. You're playing in a different environment. You're playing in MLS. You're playing away from home. You're playing, living in a bubble for a while to get this done. You've got a lot of reasons to play. And I think the statements before these first two games have shown some of those reasons for playing, and a lot of the players that want to play and use that platform. But I think it's been a win for the league and for the game, most importantly, and for the players that are involved that are using this to, I think, put a spotlight on their message that they would not have been able to if you did not have these matches.
The Colonel's in this morning. Strong #BLM stuff from Union. Sound feed and signage from ESPN is excellent. Artificial crowd noise would be a shame. Philly's a force to be considered, although their goal should have been waved off after Aronson clobbered Matarrita and took him out of the defense.
I don't think the goal would have been called off. I'm fine with that. Aronson, if he did it intentionally, which is possible, he looked like he was stumbling enough to sell it. I don't think it affected. Matarrita wasn't defending the shot. Matarrita wasn't going to defend the shot. He couldn't get there quick enough. So I'm okay with a no call there. It wasn't like he ran over the defender who would have made the play. And I think he was stumbling after the way he was running that direction. So I'm good with the goal standing. I'm good with the sound. I think the sound's been great. I think the guy in the dump button's done a pretty good job. The male or female on the dump button has done a very good job. I've seen some people say that a couple things got through. I actually haven't heard anything get through yet.
Mueller.
I didn't hear it get through. I mean, I thought it caught it pretty fast.
I heard it on a second channel. You didn't hear it from the primary microphone.
See, I didn't hear it,
but you heard it. You heard it in the background in real time.
Okay, so they caught one.
Yeah,
because they immediately went to the dump button on him.
Yeah, but you could still hear it from another microphone.
You could hear it from another one. Okay, I didn't hear it. I didn't catch it. So I guess maybe they got it good enough.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I don't know where they're placed. These microphones, embedded in the pitch.
Yeah.
There was something that I think Twellman brought it up today about hearing the tackles. That's something I've noticed. One of the fouls last night, I think the Moutinho foul, you could hear it. You could hear the smack. That stuff's wild to me. The goalkeepers, you can hear their instructions very, very clearly on set pieces. Love it. I'm with Colonel. I would much rather have this than have pumped in fake crowd noise.
That's late.
The Bundesliga did the best of anybody with the fake crowd noise. They nailed it. They timed it right. They got the emotions of it right. It did enhance the broadcast. It was good. The Premier League has been awful. It's mistimed and it's not blended well, and it's just a mess. The NWSL naturals or fake sound, I don't like. I don't think it's I don't know where it's coming from, what file it's coming from, but there's too much like static or high end in it. It just feels weird.
Yeah.
So I like what MLS is doing with it. I like their presentation. I understand the sponsors. It is not ideal. No, you don't want a logo superimposed at midfield. You don't want all these huge banners. You'd rather see people. You don't have people. And you have sponsors that you need to make good too. So it's the reality. Are we going to keep complaining about every single little thing? I mean, there's only so much you can do right now. It's going to be different because it is different. And I think they're making the most of it. I've been happy with both of these broadcasts.
Ricky Ricardo says, honestly, the Adidas logo should be bigger.
People would lose their minds. If they were able to do it, and look, I think of the way we see the Liga MX presentation a lot of times where you come back from halftime, you have an ad that is superimposed on the field. I always remember the truck coming and destroying part of the field and all that stuff. That's fine. That's fun. Always think of the giant logos, the giant crests being placed on each side of the field. I don't have a problem with that. They go away. Could you find a way to only put it on when it needs to be there? Maybe. I don't have a problem with it. I honestly don't notice it after about 10 minutes. It really doesn't affect my enjoyment of the match. It is what it is. It just is what it is. Lots of people chiming in on the timeline right now about everything with this sourcing, and Stefano Fusaro with ESPN, who's been amazing in the bubble. He's got it as well, and first reported by The Athletic and Paul Tenorio that Nashville's been withdrawn, Chicago moving from Group A to Group B. All 6 groups will have 4 teams. He's about to hop on SportsCenter with some more details. Again, it's no surprise, but that's where we're at. It's a shame for Nashville, but you have to ask the questions about the buses. Yep. Now, that's after you had issues with testing, but it's in the last paragraph of the Athletic article, Nashville had some travel issues after a previous false positive. The team was taken to the airport on July 2nd to try to depart for Orlando, but sat on buses for more than an hour before ultimately being sent home. Believe that they did not have their test results when they were sitting on the buses. Now, we know, nationwide right now, there are issues with getting test results quickly. We understand that at the moment. That makes this whole situation difficult for a lot of teams. But that's not best practices kind of behavior, to have players who you don't have all the test results sitting on a bus. Sure, you can socially distance to a degree, but it's to a degree. You're increasing risk for no good reason in that. That's just one thing we know about it. Yeah. So there has to be questions of Dallas and Nashville the deeper we get. There has to be an investigation into it from the league perspective to what happened, what went wrong. Because if you're going to play in markets starting in August and September, you cannot have this happen in a market. You can't have a team be reluctant to go play in Dallas because of the issues they've had with this. We can't have this happen. Yeah. So you need to fix it now. Find out what happened. Where was the breakdown? What were some of the actions that could have been done differently, and learn from it and move on.
Rich Ransom's in this afternoon. Notice I said afternoon.
Nicely done.
Noon Eastern time.
Very good.
Bedoya scores. Andre Blake saving us in the end. Welcome back to a typical Union win. 3 points. Hashtag BLM. Hashtag dupe.
I thought the Union looked good. I said it before the game that I felt like they had to show that they were in that elite class in the East, and I think they are. They were outshot. They did look a little bit different than we're used to. You know, you look at the numbers. You want to go a little bit further. It's 59.5% of the possession for New York. Philadelphia only had 40.4. They had 8 shots, 4 on target. New York had 17 shots, 7 on target. You want to go a little bit deeper and look at who was involved in creating these. Philadelphia created 6 chances. Bedoya created 2 of them. He had the goal. You look at New York City and the chances they created. It's a lot of math. 17, I believe, would be the answer. And Matarrita, their left back, created 4. Maxi Morales created 3. Anton Tinnerholm, their right back, created 2. Tajori Shradi created 2. Ring, Castellanos, Medina, and Eber created 1 each. If you're Philly, you see those numbers and you look back at it and you're like, wait a minute. Left back created 4, right back created 2. That's the issue a little bit with a diamond at times, because you don't have as much width. And if Matarrita and Tinnerholm are finding that kind of space, teams will punish you eventually. That's going to set off a little bit of an alarm for Jim Curtin, because what you have to do to counteract not having the width in a 4-4-2 diamond is sliding side to side and condensing the field, cutting it in half. And if it's on that right side, your right side, and it's their left side attacking you, and Matarrita was the danger man here with 4 chances created, Gaddis has to get more help from Bedoya defending him. He has to get a little more support because he's alone. You don't have a winger in front of you. It's a central midfielder who's going to flare out there to help you. Wagner's got to get some help from Montero against Tinnerholm, and that side seemed to handle it a little bit better. That's something that Philadelphia is going to have to get better about, because teams they'll see this and they'll say, okay, that's how we get after them. And they're going to have to try to take better advantage of it than New York City. My question is, New York City, where's the goals going to come from? Eber has not been scoring this season. You started Eber and Castellanos, and both had their opportunities. I mean, Castellanos had 8 shots, 4 of them on target. None in the back of the net.
Mm-hmm. Also this morning, Chris Ashley letting us know a little show prep. Branding coming from Charlotte on the 22nd of this month.
Well, yes, they made an announcement, or a tease this morning at least anyway. And we'll get it. I mean, not surprised, because things are starting to ramp up with Charlotte signing a player, with Austin signing a player, with Louisville now with their branding for NWSL with Racing Louisville. So everything is ramping up for what next season looks like. It's a hard time, because this season right now is so hard, but you're looking to the future for that to change, and you almost want to go ahead and skip ahead to that. But you want to get that news out there so you can take full advantage of it when you get there. And Charlotte and Austin, I want to see what Charlotte goes with here, because different league, but the branding that Racing Louisville has come up with raises the bar for everybody. And Charlotte's going to have to hit that standard now, which is very high.
Let's see. John Nason has some international news that has happened today. Every other comment on the timeline is about last night.
Okay, we got a whole bunch of stuff on Twitch.
Go for it.
Let me get caught up there. Okay. Let me make sure I got it here. All right, cool. Because we had a quick Twitch this morning, a little dropped it in, caught some people by surprise. But a few of you guys, you got your notifications on Twitch. I like that. We'll be doing that from time to time, where there's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever before a game, or hop on. If I've got time to click on a camera and hop in before the game starts, I'm going to try to do that more often. So subscribe on Twitch, get your notifications on, and it's just a Q&A when we do those. So that was fun this morning. All right. I don't even want to get into the details of this, but Ropes asked about a certain unnamed former journalist who said some stupid things looking for attention last night. And he got some attention, and he also got dropped from his place of, I don't know how much employment it was, but he got dropped from the place that was publishing his work. So he got the attention he wanted, and now he started a Patreon to try to get some money out of his attention. So he's not worth the time. Ropes, if you want to look it up, it's not hard to find. It is your typical person who is playing a game to get attention. And I don't even know what their actual thought process is, but it's obvious that they are trying to provoke and get attention. So they're not going to get it from us in terms of naming or pointing at them. They're not worth the trouble. Nope. But things were handled pretty quickly and handled pretty well, I thought. Yeah. Kefsey likes my Retros e Rareses Dutch kit. It is a Johan Cruyff 1974 World Cup recreation. They nailed it too, and what I love about them is they are historically accurate. And two things about the two kits I have from them. So this is a Johan Cruyff one. Remember, Cruyff was not an Adidas guy. The kits were Adidas, so they had 3 stripes. Cruyff took a stripe off. He had 2 stripes. And they did 2 stripes on this. The Maradona kit that I have, they didn't put Maradona's name on the back, which I've seen from a lot of the recreations of that navy blue Le Coq Sportif 1986 World Cup kit. And what they did that got me to buy it was, when you look at a bad reproduction of that kit, it's got the current AFA badge on it. Remember the story with those kits. They wore the officially given to them Le Coq Sportif Navy kits in the match against Uruguay. And they were thick and they were heavy. And you're playing in Mexico City in the summer. And they had an afternoon kickoff against England in the quarterfinals. And the team was like, we're not wearing those. Oh, we're going to die. We need something different. So they went to I think they went to flea markets and shops and the market in Mexico City, and they found a bunch of kits, and they brought a whole bunch of different ones in to say, which ones do you guys want to wear? And they picked those. So then they had to put the numbers on it, they had to put the badge on it, they had to put the Le Coq Sportif logo on it, but they bought them at a no-name shop in Mexico City, and they were kind of mesh-like, so it was good for the heat. But they didn't put the correct badge on it. They put the old badge on it. And the reproduction that Retros y Rareses did has the old badge on it. That was what sealed it for me. So the attention to detail is awesome. They're based out of El Salvador, but they sell stuff from here. I think they're based in this country in Los Angeles because they do a lot of LA Galaxy reproductions. And it's good price. You get it fast, and it's really good quality. There's your advertisement for Retros y Rareses. Joe's got us up on the big screen. That's always scary. Kefsey likes your Tormenta shirt as well.
Yeah, this was the fundraiser that Tormenta did, where if you picked these up, then you helped pay for meals for those who were less fortunate in Bullock County and supporters of Tormenta this season.
Yeah, awesome stuff from the crew at Tormenta for that. Rope said Brendan Aronson looked really good. I hope Greg with 3 Gs is taking lots of notes. I think Aronson's a national team player. I do. I really liked his work on the goal and not just running over a defender to clear space, although that's always appreciated as well. It was the patience, because the first ball that was played into him, he didn't really have anything. He didn't have a clear shot. He didn't have a clear pass to slip somebody through, so he recycled, and he kept the possession moving, and it ultimately created the opportunity for Bedoya after a poor clearance. That's good awareness from Aronson. I really like his game. I think he is a national team player. He's going to be in Europe here at some point.
Yep.
Atlanta Phoenix, mad at his MLS Predict 6. They lost his picks, and he'd have full points. What?
Oh, no.
That's not good.
No.
I was happy with Prize Picks yesterday because I won a little bit on it, and I won a little bit on it thanks to Chris Mueller, because they had a low number for him, and I had belief in Chris Mueller, and got me a goal, so I was good to go. I think I would have been good without the goal, actually, because he had a good night last night. But Prize Picks was very, very good to me.
Yeah, so Prize Picks, use the code SDH still?
If you have not signed up, you go in, you sign up, you make your first deposit, you use the code SDH. It helps the show, but you also get 25% of that deposit matched, so you're going to get more money to work with, and you get a free 2-pick play to start you off. That I think is worth $25. So a pretty good way to get a free roll and also get some free cash to work with over at Prize Picks. And the MLS is Back tournament is there, along with all the games in Europe every day. So you can do some mixing and matching. It was, what was it for me yesterday that got me the win? It was Luis Suarez, Raheem Sterling, and Chris Mueller.
There you go.
That trifecta was a very good one for me. Okay, Ropes has got a question. I need your answer on it first. The Dom Dwyer elbow on Reyes, do you think it was intentional?
No.
You don't?
I do not, because from the angles that I saw, once again, I'm using the reference points that we had from the cameras. The way that I have Dwyer in my head, he's further up from Reyes. Reyes would be like if you're looking at a clock. If Dom Dwyer's at the center of the clock, I have Reyes at about 8 or 8:30, to where he's just out of peripheral vision. You know something is there, and obviously with Dwyer's history, a lot of folks have talked about that in the timeline too. That the intentionality one way or the other. I don't think that particular moment was intentional. I think that he was his standard Mack truck self at other moments. I don't think the Reyes moment was intentional.
Yeah, I don't think it was intentional, because I didn't notice him like peek over his shoulder to line it up. That's where I'll think an elbow or a shoulder or something is intentional, because you look to see where the player is. Mm-hmm. I think he was just reckless, like he always is.
Yeah.
Now, some of the conversation on Twitch I agree with. If he had been carded earlier for persistent infringement, which, I mean, at one point, 43rd minute, I kept looking at it because it was blowing me away. He had 4 fouls and 4 touches.
Yeah.
Now, that changed a little. I think he ended up like closer to 12 or 13 touches and 4 fouls, but because that wasn't a foul. There was another one that could have been called a foul, but he should have been on a card by that point. And then maybe, not so much that he did this intentionally, but maybe he would have been playing in a different manner and it wouldn't have happened. I think it was a fluke. I definitely don't think he meant to injure him. If he meant to throw an elbow or throw his arm out to make space, well, that's the game. I don't think he meant to injure anybody. I don't think Dom Dwyer's that player. I think he plays very physically, very aggressively, and very recklessly at times. But I don't think he tries to hurt people. That's a difference for me. There's a line there that I don't think he crosses. I think he's frustrated because he hasn't been playing well. His touches have not been good. He's not putting chances away. And I think he knows that, and he's putting too much pressure on himself. I wish he would get back to where he was when he was playing with the national team in the Gold Cup, and not a player that we're tracking how many fouls he has versus how many touches he has. He's a better player than that, and we just haven't seen it in a while. Mrs. Claus popping up in multiple spots. She's on Twitch as well. Hello. I like when people show up in Twitter and on Twitch.
I know. Because
it's like whiplash. Because we're not doing everything in sync. It's like we go from one to the other, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Hey, you were here. Now you're here. Okay.
Well, hey, Santa United let us know on Twitter.
No, you don't know the story.
And got the screenshot.
No. Mrs. Claus is typically reporting on behalf of Santa United. Typically. Sorry if the cat's out of the bag, everybody. Sorry, I apologize. I hope I'm still on the good list this year. But Santa's a busy man. I mean, this is not a surprise. Santa has elves who do a lot of the work for him, so of course Mrs. Claus is pitching in. We know this, right?
And that you have stuck with the anniversary lettering after we found out that it was 24 years ago, a couple days ago, with the NWO. So you've stuck with the NWO lettering on the frame.
Well, I've used it, thanks to Chris Ashley, who sent it to us. I'm not sticking.
I'm
using it. It's awesome. Yes, the shirt is available, and you can buy the shirt. Go to teespring.com/soccer-down-here. Supports the show. It helps. Man, Ropes drove through Martin's? Ropes? Dude, I need to come hang out with you. I don't have a Martin's close to me. I had
Ricky
Martin's.
Yeah?
What?
No, go ahead with your Martin's.
I had Martin's before. The last time I had Martin's was before the game at Kennesaw and CONCACAF. Because I actually, happiest of Joes, donated some equipment that was supposed to be going to a middle school, and then a global pandemic happened. And now we're waiting to get it to the school because there's a global pandemic. Mm-hmm. But picked that up, thanks to Joe, and then was like, man, I got some time to kill before I go to Kennesaw. Lunch. Martin's. Sweet. But now we have a global pandemic, and I don't get to go to the Martins over there anymore. So, ropes. Man. Mm-hmm. Adam from 816. I want Don Garber's face at midfield. Man, people would be upset about that.
Instead of the Adidas logo, you have Don Garber center circle?
I mean, you could maybe have a superimposed tattoo on Don Garber's head and have his face there. People would be even angrier about that because, man, people do not like Don Garber. And it's weird. You know, it's this weird thing because I think it's the cool thing to do is not like the commissioner.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's almost become a joke in the NFL. You boo the commissioner during the draft. It's the same with the NHL, right? They don't like Bettman.
They haven't liked Bettman for 2 decades. No.
Yeah, nobody likes Manfred with Major League Baseball. There's nothing wrong with that. Nope. I think silver in the NBA is okay, but you get some of that, like, ooh, commissioner, bad. We don't like the teacher. We don't like the principal, that kind of thing.
You want to throw paper wads at him.
I see the older the team is in MLS, the more they dislike Don Garber. The newer teams don't have that issue. The outside people who are looking at the league, I think they like Don Garber. Yeah. So it's funny to see the reactions to the commissioner. I thought he was fine last night on TV. I thought he did the best that he could with that interview, knowing this Nashville situation wasn't resolved yet. I thought he handled it well.
Yeah. Ricky Ricardo has a Dom Dwyer question. Did it seem like Dwyer was doing too much last night? Like he was trying too hard or something?
100%.
Falling, etc.
Putting too much pressure on himself. The falling, he's done that for a long time. It's just part of his game, and it is what it is. But he was trying to make a statement with his physicality, and it just didn't do anything, first off, and it didn't change the game, and it took away from the job he's there to do, which is score goals. So he's just not effective right now. He's just not helping that team right now, and I would not be surprised since Oscar Pareja knows this guy very well, scouted him when Oscar was in Colorado, scouted Tesho Akindele at the Colorado School of Mines, drafted him when he moved over to Dallas, had him there, now he's got him in Orlando. Would not be surprised to see Akindele start the next game over Dwyer. It's a lot of money to put on the bench. He's just not giving you anything. He just isn't. So I think you need to make that change, and who knows? Maybe that shakes it up. I'm not sure.
Trying to find other things that were today, but it looks like everything is drifting toward last night and everything's starting.
All right, what are people saying about last night?
Matt Wagner Great to be talking MLS soccer again. Last
Thank
night
you.
I wasn't overly impressed with either team, but Orlando capitalized when it needed to. Miami had lots of questions to answer. The announcers mentioned they need a number 8 and a number 9. Thoughts on who they will pursue?
Well, I don't think he said specifically a number 8. I think Twellman made the point that it was interesting that they have not assigned number 8 or 9 to anybody yet. So those are usually high-profile numbers, high-profile players on your roster. I think they've got the midfield okay. Ulloa's got to be more involved going forward. When he was, they looked good. When he wasn't, they didn't really have anything. Miami's a work in progress. They're a new team. They need a number 9 in the worst way. Robbie Robinson's not that guy. Carranza maybe could be, but he's young. You're gonna have to deal with the ups and downs of a young player. I think he might be better out wide in the short term. But then what do you do with Lewis Morgan, who I thought was good last night, especially on set pieces?
Yes.
Pellegrini's another young player who you're going to have to deal with ups and downs with. I think the upside is worth it. But how do you make all that fit? You got to go get a number 9. You have to go get a goal scorer that threatens the other team. When the name's on the team sheet, the other team says, we have to deal with this. You need that because Juan Agudelo, he got the goal last night, but man, he blew a big chance before that, and his attempt from midfield was comical. I think he hit Nico Cantor, who wasn't anywhere near the goal, so that's not good. You got to have a number 9, and you're going to have to pony up the cash for it. And there's some that are out there. I mean, Edinson Cavani has been talked about, has been mentioned. He comes with a very big price tag, not a transfer fee, but a very big salary that would be the biggest in the league by far.
13, 14 million was the number I heard.
Yeah, that's what he wants. Is he going to find anybody to give him that? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Could you get him for 10? If you get him for 10, I think you need to get him. If you can get him for 10 and Miami's got the money, I think you need to go do it. If it's more than that, you're going to have to figure that out. But they need a number 9 in the worst way. That's the issue they need. They need somebody not just to wear the number 9 shirt, but to be the threatening player on the field in the final third. Because, like it or not, nobody's afraid of Agudelo at this point. Nobody knows Carranza and Pellegrini enough to be afraid of them. You've got to have somebody that scares the opposition.
Daniel Price thought Orlando played well last night. Miami had new kid on the block syndrome with that performance. They needed LGP last night.
Yeah, well, they need that presence, and that's the hardest thing for a new team, because you're not just building a team to look good on paper. You're not just building a team that looks good in a video game. You need chemistry and you need personality, and LGP brings that in spades. You know you're going to notice him. You know that back line is going to respond to him. We saw it here in year one. You would see it in Miami when he's able to play. He's going to change that defense. That was something that I noticed. You didn't get a whole lot of talk at times, and on that last goal, you didn't hear any chatter from Robles and from the defenders, and it felt like miscommunication to a degree. So you need LGP in a big way, but you also need other players with character as well. You need some personalities in that group. Pellegrini and Carranza are young. Agudelo's got to prove himself. Ulloa's not that kind of guy. Will Trapp's not that kind of guy. You know, Lewis Morgan, I don't know, maybe. They feel very bland. And a Miami team should not be bland. And a team that has ambitions like Miami can't be bland and hit those ambitions. They've got to get some big personalities into that group. LGP will help. Hopefully whoever they get who's going to score goals will also help.
Jason Nix, anybody else have trouble hearing the commentators over the field mics, especially in the second half last night?
The second half, the balance got out of whack. The first half, I thought it was fine. The second half, either the commentary was lower or the field was higher. I don't know which it was. I think it was the latter. Yeah, it got out of whack, and I don't know where it got out of whack. Maybe it was during the halftime stuff with people who were there and balancing levels, and it just never got recorrected. I don't know. But yeah, it wasn't the case today. I think today was fine with it. It was back to where the first half was. So it's trial and error because there's no way you could be ready for that because you've never done a game like that. And you've never done a game there, so you don't really have anything to go on. They did lose the balance in the second half, I agree.
Michael Head, in his mind, pros and cons from the first match. Pros, MLS is back, exclamation point.
Mm-hmm.
Pro, Nani. Pro, Mueller. Pro, Ambrose starting and playing full time.
Yep.
What do you think about it? What do you think about the pros?
All fine. I think Mueller was the biggest of the pros. Good to see Mikey get the start. Mikey was fine. I thought Nani, he got the goal at the end. He stepped up late, and it's back to the whole question about was Nani the kind of player that they needed. I think he's been more than they expected. He's more than I expected anyway. He's been very good. I worried if he'd be able to hold up physically. Hasn't really been a problem. He's been a guy who's been vocal in this league. He's been a big figure for a team that needs it. I think Nani's turned out to be a really good signing, and he showed up when they needed him last night. That's why you pay the money for a player like that.
Cons from Michael Head. We already talked about the huge midfield sponsor, boo. Dwyer elbows. Slow EMTs. That whole episode was embarrassing and could have been hazardous, and the too high camera position.
Yeah, the camera position, nothing you can do. The EMTs, I did see a couple things about this, and I need to do some more research on EMTs because it's not an area where I've got a whole lot of expertise. I saw a few different posts last night. One that the trainer for Miami, the one who was previously with the Red Bulls, that is very recognizable, that he gave a signal to the bench that it was okay. Like, he was in pain, but it was like a thumbs up signal towards the end of the whole episode. So that helped. And as we've found out today, he is back at the hotel. He is being tested because he left the bubble and he's got to pass tests. And I know there's been some questions about that. I don't know what else you can do, to be honest about it. You just have to test and keep testing him, and we know about incubation periods and all that, but he had to go get checked out. That's just the reality of the situation, so now you've got to deal with it. The EMT part, I saw somebody post a story, and they said they were an EMT. I don't have confirmation of that EMTs are trained not to run unless it is an absolute emergency, because when EMTs run, it definitely scares everybody else because they think it's an emergency. If they were told that it's not an emergency, he's in a lot of pain, but it's not an emergency, the breathing's okay, they're not going to run based off that. Again, I need to confirm that. That's the only thing that would make sense to me because, yeah, it felt like there was a slow process to get it done. I don't know. I don't know what else you can do. I don't. If it's just down to the individual EMTs. I saw people blaming MLS for this again. That it was MLS's fault. It's EMTs. It's not their employees. And hopefully they had the information that okay, there's no need to come running out here and mess things up, but get out here quicker than they did. I think there's probably an in between that would have been a little bit better because it felt very slow. It felt slow for them to get there in the first place. So we'll try to find out a little bit more about that. I saw those things last night, and then all the conversation went to updates on Reyes that we didn't get until this morning.
Lewis Martin, as a part of letting the community know what's going on, he watched a video and had sent a link to how Red Bull makes money. So if anybody's interested in seeing how Red Bull makes money as a business model, he has put that link.
They make money from me buying their watermelon summer drink, I'll tell you that much. That thing's good.
Yeah, Lewis says when talking about football clubs, they said a player could spend their whole career with Red Bull retiring in MLS.
Well, they could start in MLS and go to Salzburg and then go to Leipzig and then come back. They could start in Salzburg or Brazil, or I think they've got a couple others by now, and move their way up and then come to New York at the end. Yeah, you could stay in the Red Bull organization for your whole career because they're kind of creating these different tiers. And I think what New York Red Bulls fans have to understand is that they're not going to be the first tier. Leipzig is the first tier. Their best players are going to be at Leipzig. That's why Tyler Adams ended up going to Leipzig. That's why Kyle Duncan, for example, would be one that you'd be looking at in the long term. Is he going to make that move? Does he go to Salzburg first? New York's not going to be that team. I think they could be. I think they could be that team that makes more money, but Leipzig right now is a Champions League level team. You know, the Red Bulls aren't getting those types of signings. They're not getting those types of resources. So they have to develop from within and then get guys that are projects or up and coming or what have you to develop them for moves to Austria or Germany.
You want to talk about our business model since we've hit the hour mark?
Sure. Why don't you tell us about a good friend who helps our business model, Steve Apolinsky?
Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. Wrongful death and serious injury attorneys hanging out with us. Part of everything SDH and the SDH network. If you are in Georgia and Alabama, have a wrongful death or serious injury matter, a couple of different ways that you can get in touch with Apolinsky & Associates. You can do it on the website, aa-legal.com. Low right-hand corner, the instant the URL is triggered, pop-up window. You can have a conversation 24/7, 365, or this year, 366 at aa-legal.com. You can fire off an email to Steve himself at steve at aa-legal.com, or you can give him a call at 404-377-9191 and get a free consultation. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine, top 100 legal firms in the state for all the work that they've been doing over the last 30 years plus. Over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia, Alabama. The website for Steve Apolinsky & Associates is aa-legal.com. Chris Hutchison, was that any better?
That's pretty good. I figured out the level, I think, a little bit. I don't know why your audio goes haywire if it's over like 5 on the volume over here, but all right, we'll figure it out.
Turner Kirby, up the Bearcats. He says, it's amazing how within an hour before the game starting, a lot of the negativity that's been oozing from the MLS community vanished. Here's hoping for a month plus of good soccer to lead us into a semi-normal MLS season completion.
Oh, the negativity came back. I mean, it's just funny to me, like, when I see some people, like, comment on things with it, like, oh, the ads, this is so MLS. No, it's so soccer in 2020 where you can't make good on your sponsorships. And, you know, what was the other one? Oh, it's such a bad level. This is terrible. I'm like, did you watch Liverpool and Everton in week 1 in England? It was horrendous.
It was.
Like, I wanted to go to sleep. They had fake crowd noise trying to, like, fake you into it being worth watching. And no,
and the fake crowd noise was still late.
It was late and bad and didn't enhance anything. So it's soccer. Like, that's the thing. You know, all MLS referees are so bad. No, referees everywhere have problems, and they have good games too. The level was so bad. Well, look at all the games when they first came back. They were all disjointed. What I liked about it, it's the same thing I had about the NWSL, was out of the gate, the thing you can control, you're not going to be able to control how sharp you are until you get some games under your belt. You're going to be able to control the intensity. And the first game in NWSL with North Carolina and Portland, and this first game last night, both had intensity. You had hard challenges. You had players giving everything you could see it. I'll take that. That's fine. And both had late drama. I'll take that. Both 2-1 games. Kind of funny how that happens, but I'll take it. It was good enough, and it's going to get better. As we've seen in the NWSL, it feels like the level has continually gone up. You get more games, more minutes under your belt, that's going to happen. So you're still going to get that negativity because for whatever reason, there is a very negative attitude towards anything MLS does, and I do not understand it, and it is the most counterproductive thing about soccer in this country. But it is what it is. It's just all anybody else can do is talk about the game and the players, talk about a Chris Mueller, talk about these young guys who are developing and showing you things like Brendan Aronson, who are talented young players, a Mark McKenzie who's going to play in Europe, and Andre Blake who puts on a world-class goalkeeping performance. if you follow this league, you know the level and you know how good it is, and that's what's important. Not naysayers and not people who, for whatever reason, and I've never understood it because it's not an American thing either, because you don't get the conversation this way about college football, about the NFL, about Major League Baseball or the NBA or the NHL, where everything is coming from a negative slant. MLS has that. Just have to overcome it. You know, the game, the league, for me, it's compelling to me. I hope it's compelling to everybody else. I hope when I tell people to watch that they feel like I didn't waste their time.
Tafka says, for everyone wanting a bit more quality in play, remember, due to league schedule ending in November and COVID-19, these players have played 2.5 matches in 8 months. That's a lot of downtime to shake off. The second half last night was much better in terms of quality of play from the first half. Pizarro and Gwen provide much-needed midfield composure. If they'd played the whole match, Miami takes a draw or better. Overall, thank God MLS is back.
I don't know if they could have played the whole match. That's the problem. I don't think either one could give you 90, and that's going to be another component to the way these games get managed, is players who are either just not 90 minutes fit, working their way to that, or players who are just better in shorter stints in a short period of time in this tournament. You're going to see some things handled differently. Like Ilsinho is going to be one to watch with Philadelphia. Pizarro, Glesnes, they mentioned today, you know, he came back from Europe, so he doesn't have quite as much training time under his belt. You're going to see some situations like that where lineups might change over the 3 games.
Let's see, really quickly. John Nason still has, we still have the international news from him, but last night, your takeaways from the NWSL match late.
Sky Blue stepped up. Sky Blue showed something they haven't shown in this whole tournament, an attack. Onumanu, I mentioned it on the Cup date this week, that I feel like she had to start, because it's not just about her being able to be that number 9 target forward. It's her intelligence on the ball and her work on the ball and her runs off the ball to create opportunities for everybody. The whole attack looks better. And I thought Cujo starting as well next to McCall Zerboni gave that midfield a lot of energy, a lot of bite, and it worked. It solved the problem of stopping Houston's attack, which has been one of the best in the tournament, and they created as well. And Sky Blue looked like a team that didn't miss Carly Lloyd, didn't miss Mallory Pugh, and when you add them to this group, Sky Blue's a team you got to pay attention to. Now, the flip side was I thought this was an opportunity for Houston to cement that they were in that top half of the league. Now, not so sure. You know, now it really feels like it's North Carolina and everybody else. I thought Houston might be able to edge into that conversation. I don't think so yet. So we'll see how these games go on the weekend. Everybody's played 3 now. And you get some interesting matchups this weekend. I think it's Houston and Washington as the early game on Sunday. It's Sunday-Monday games in NWSL. And Houston-Washington is the one that the winner of that is not – they'll probably end up being number 2 in the standings. They're number 2 in the power rankings to me. That's the statement game that one of them has to grab that number 2 spot.
John Nason says, FIFA plus VAR, what could go wrong? Brian Swanson at Sky. FIFA takes full control of VAR in a letter to member associations.
That was always the plan. Nothing's changed. That was always what it was going to be. IFAB wasn't going to control VAR forever. IFAB's involved in putting the laws of the game together. And the use of VAR is part of that. And that will continue to be part of that conversation between FIFA and VAR and IFAB, but FIFA will direct the actual implementations of VAR. One of the big reasons why? The Premier League's blown it. And when you look at the construction of IFAB is generally very protective of the leagues in the UK, and specifically the Premier League, more than anything. And look, you read the way that it's written to use VAR, Premier League referees don't. The league doesn't. The whole idea with not going to the monitor, stuff like that, it's ridiculous. So you take the Premier League FA involvement with IFAB out of the equation now, and it's a FIFA thing about how you control VAR. FIFA's going to make them do it. Good. They should. They're the ones who have blown it. They're the ones who, in the world, the attitude towards VAR has changed the most negatively because of how it's used in England. I don't know why they wanted to recreate it, why they wanted to redesign the wheel here, because the things worked. And they haven't had it work well, and they haven't learned from it. That's the biggest problem, is they didn't adapt. I mean, here in MLS, when it came in, it was one of the first leagues to have it. Were there some times where you felt like it was maybe overused? Yeah. Were there some times where it felt like a new toy? Yeah. Now, I think it's handled really well. I think they do a good job with chiming in when they need to chime in. The Premier League, it's who knows? And then the referee won't go look at the monitor at situations that they should go look at. The offside thing's a whole different conversation. A lot of people point that out about the Premier League. That's not necessarily the same. They use a Hawkeye system that gives you more detail. And if it's really close, they show you it's really close. The conversation with VAR that drives me insane about the Premier League is the reluctance to go look at the monitor to get the decision right. That's the part that there's just no question about it. It's just arrogance as to why they don't. That has to change. I hope with FIFA's involvement now, it'll be more consistently implemented around the world. I think that's the idea behind it.
Yeah, Arsene Wenger, who is now FIFA's chief of global football development, back in December, called on Premier League refs to use pitch side monitors before making decisions using VAR. That for me is the most important worry, was his quote at the IFAB meeting back in Belfast.
Yeah, I agree. Twitch, some of the pros and cons that were bouncing around. Shelly Ray chimes in and says, pro, the Union's jerseys today. Again, we mentioned it a little earlier. Awesome job. Awesome way to present it. Caught everybody by surprise. I think it took the words out of Twellman and Champion's mouth for a long time. That shows you how powerful it was. I think they nailed it. And I'm not surprised that it was the Philadelphia Union to do that. I think you have people in that organization and in that club that take this responsibility of using their platform properly very importantly. And you saw that with the way this went down. So I'm completely with it. That's an absolute pro of what we've seen so far. Mrs. Claus has an interesting question. And I want to get your take on this first. She's been asking around to Atlanta United fans, which former Five Stripes player will you be most disappointed or sad or scared to see on the other side of the pitch in another uniform?
Wow. See, I mean, I don't know. It might have already happened with Garza, just because of it happening and him going to Cincinnati and what he meant to the title run. So,
well, a lot of people are saying Nagby.
Yeah.
Some LGP.
Yeah.
LGP is that for me because he plays the mental side of the game too, and he's going to know how to get under people's skin. And he's going to know how to get people frustrated and off their game. He's a very smart player. Everything is intentional with what he does on the field. And he's going to try to get Pitti or Barco or Joseph off their game. And he's good enough at what he does to do it. I think he's the one who could have the biggest impact against Atlanta because of that.
Okay. I agree. And I'm also looking forward to seeing the moments when the Big Red steps up in LGP's face when that moment does happen. When you have
but that doesn't necessarily change it. I mean, I'm not talking about LGP trying to pick a fight with somebody. I'm talking about but it's very clear. It's not about a confrontation. It's about LGP throwing a little small elbow into Pitti's ribs or Joseph's ribs. It's about saying things. It's about talking some trash. That's why I wish he was playing in this tournament, because with all these mics, it'd be amazing what you'd hear out of LGP's mouth. And Joseph, by the way, because he can talk a little bit himself. But I think that's the stuff that's going to be interesting on it. We'll see. We'll see. Nagby's tough to play against because Nagby's a great player. But I still want to see more of Columbus. I'm not 100% sold that they are a top team in this league over a 34-game season. They don't have any depth in the middle of the park. They have depth at center back. They have depth at outside back. They have depth up top. Beyond Nagbe, Artur, which I have questions about those two defensively, and Lucas Zelarayan, that's your three central midfielders. You're then turning to Sebastian Berhalter, Greg Son, homegrown signing, 1 year of college. Aiden Morris, 1 year of college, homegrown. That's it. That's your number 4, number 5, and you play 3 central midfielders. You could move Pedro Santos in and play another winger, but you don't have a lot of depth in those holding midfield roles. That's something I worry about with Columbus in the long term, along with just can Artur and Nagbe hold up, because you don't have a number 6 in that group. Both of them want to go. What's the midfield defensively going to look like? I don't know. Kurt McGirt chimes in on the EMTs, and Kurt would have some inside information on this as well. He understands that process pretty well. He said he thought the biggest issue they were having was no obvious entry to the field, and that could be a big part of what slowed it down. Just, again, it's a studio/pitch. I mean, you're figuring out all this on the fly, and that's probably something where they should have handled it differently. I looked like there was entries on the ends, but they tried to come in through the middle, and there wasn't an obvious entry there, and I don't know. Somebody messed up on that part. That's a good point. He said there was no gate or video board that looked like the obvious one to move. So, good point, Kurt. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Daniel Price says LGP because he's going to break our ankles. Going up to break our ankles.
No, he's not. No, he's not going to break ankles. No, I disagree. LGP is not that. He's not that player. He's gonna challenge you hard, but I honestly can't think of a whole bunch of times that I'd put him in an ankle breaking conversation. He's gonna get inside people's heads. That's where he's gonna be effective. Is he's gonna talk all the trash. And he's going to know what buttons to push, and he's going to throw every little cheap shot after talking trash, because that's how it goes. You talk all the trash, you get somebody riled up, you throw a little elbow, then they get caught retaliating, and then you laugh your way to playing 11v10. That's where LGP is going to hurt you, in my opinion.
Official word out of Nashville, quote from CEO Ian Ayre. In what has been a challenging year, and in an uncharted environment created by the tornado that devastated our city and COVID-19, this is another big disappointing outcome for Nashville SC and its supporters. Our focus now lays on the recovery of our players who've been infected with COVID-19 and on getting our complete traveling party back home safely. Once everyone is safe and healthy in Nashville, we can then turn the page and focus on our preparation and participation in the return to play for the latter half of the season post-Orlando. And press release continues, Nashville SC is working with MLS and local health officials on a plan to bring home those players and staff who've consistently tested negative throughout their time in Orlando as soon as it ensures everyone's safety in the process. Timetable for return of players who tested positive will be determined by MLS health, safety, and medical protocols.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to leave until they're clear. I think that was the conversation around Dallas as well. As I've said, I think once you get everybody safely back to home, once you get everybody treated, recovered, everything done, then the conversation has to shift to what broke down to have this happen. Because it didn't happen with 24 other teams. It happened with 2. And why? We have to have answers to that. That's something the league has to figure out.
All right, what else is on the Twitch mind?
Twitch is busy. Everybody's been hanging out on Twitch, which is awesome, and I love that. And the way this show goes, I think you guys are starting to figure this out. Like with Twitter, with Twitch, with everything going on, we kind of bounce back and forth in different segments of it. But especially on Twitch, you guys keep having conversations and talking in amongst yourselves. Please do it. That's what we're here for. It's just a way to bring everybody together as best we can when people can't literally be together at the moment. Another opportunity for that, if you haven't heard, tonight Kevin Egan and I are doing a trivia contest for Soccer in the Streets. mysoccerstreets.org/trivia. That's how you sign up. Any donation gets you into the contest. If you can donate $1, you're going to get the link to play. If you can donate more, please do. But it's just any donation gets you into play, and it's going to be multiple choice. It's going to be 6 categories, 12 questions per category, 72 questions in total. It's going to move really fast. You'll get the instructions when you sign up from Soccer in the Streets. You need to use Zoom, and you need to download an app called Kahoot. That's how that's your buzzer, essentially. That's how you're going to answer the question. So perfect setup for it is to have a laptop or tablet or computer with Zoom up, so you see Kevin and I and get settled and everything. And then Kahoot will be how you answer the questions. You can do that on your phone. That's the easiest way to do it. So any donation gets you in. It's wide open as to how many people we can have play. It's going to be a lot of fun. Tried to come up with a wide variety of questions and topics for you. A lot of Atlanta United questions, some Atlanta United trivia that I'll be intrigued to see if people get or not. I've got the MLS questions. I've got the U.S. national team questions, men's and women's. And I've got the pop culture section. I had some fun with that one.
How much Athens music scene questions are in your grid?
It's a soccer trivia contest, John. There's not a whole lot of Athens music scene soccer crossover. There's music crossovers, but it's a soccer trivia contest.
Okay.
Well, that's what it is. So there's no REM questions in the quiz. Let's put it that way, or B-52s or Pylon or anybody else.
So if Pylon was in a starting 11, what position would they play?
Yeah, you want me to give you that trivia contest and see how you do? 0.0.
I'm already at a 0.0.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
That's right. Okay. Another question from Mrs. Claus, and this is a good one. The flip side of the LGP conundrum, because I do think he will talk all the trash and try to get all the frustrations going among Atlanta players, all out of love, and they'll hug it out after the game if they're able to hug it out because of social distancing protocols. But who from Atlanta will be talking trash to LGP to get him a red card? Joseph would. We know that. And Joseph would have the most opportunity to, but he's probably not going to see him this season. I don't think Pitty's a trash talker. I don't think Barco's a trash talker, although he might be a sneaky trash talker.
I was going to say, I figured Barco might just kind of drift by and maybe just buzz the tower a little bit.
Barco might be a sneaky trash talker to LGP. Mrs. Claus goes with Remedi. I don't know if Remedi could be serious enough to get the red card on him, though. Remedi'd be telling jokes and trying to distract him. Yeah. I don't know if he'd get a red out of it, but he might get a goal out of it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Jeff could be a dastardly trash talker. I could see Jeff dropping a few barbs in there on you.
Yeah, Joey Logan says Remedi will talk the trash to LGP.
I don't know. Maybe. Remedi will get stuck into him, that's for sure. I mean, if Remedi gets a chance to run him over, he will. I don't know if he'll talk trash about it, though. I'm going to go Barco. I don't know why I have the feeling that Barco would be a sneaky trash talker.
I think Barco will be a sneaky trash talker. That was one of my first thoughts was that one. And Joe Johnstone has made it back with lunch in hand, and he's watching the show on Twitch. And
yes, he's been on Twitch. We've covered that.
Along with that. And so has Santa.
Yeah, they're in both places. They're hanging out in both places. They're sneaky like that. Let me finish up on Twitch because we got about 5 more minutes. We're calling it just a little short today. It is hectic over the next couple of days for me getting ready for Saturday. Real quick before we finish on Twitch, programming update. Tomorrow will not be a normal show. We've got work to do to get ready for the broadcast on Saturday because this is a complicated broadcast. Obviously, we're not going to be in Orlando. No radio teams, no TV teams are on site in Orlando. There's sideline reporters. We've seen Stefano Fusaro for ESPN, Nico Cantor is in the bubble. I do want to see, because they've got the game tonight, how they handle play-by-play in color. I believe it's from the studio, but I'm not 100% sure of that. ESPN, they told you, John Champion, Taylor Twellman in the studio. I believe Fox is the same thing. We're the same thing. We're calling it from a studio here. We're also doing a lot of things with the club. We're expanding our AT&T countdown to kickoff. whole lot of more elements in the pregame coverage. It's going to be on Atlanta United social media channels, and we're adding post-game coverage to that as well on Atlanta United social media channels. That's going to be a simulcast of the first portion of our full-time report that's on 92.9 The Game. So we're doing all of that in conjunction with calling a game like we normally do, and also preparing a 2-hour preview of the tournament as a whole. We'll get you caught up on the latest with the tournament. That starts at 5:30 on Saturday. That runs to 7:30. Five Stripes Countdown starts at 7:30 and runs to kickoff. Then we have the match. Then we'll have the full-time report for an hour after the final whistle. So lots of stuff to get ready for that because it's not a traditional broadcast. So tomorrow's show, I won't be available in the morning at the normal time. I think what we're going to end up doing is, this is still a little bit of a work in progress, we will have the run-up tomorrow night, first off. We will have the return of the run-up with Kelly, with John. Nick Alifi's going to hang out as well. They're going to get you ready for the Atlanta Red Bulls match. That's going to be at 7 o'clock on Twitch and on the audio channel of the app and the website, so you can watch that. We'll have an SDH. It'll be a lot like this morning. It'll be very loose in the morning, very early before John's wake-up time. So I'm going to knock that out really loosely before I have to go. So as things pop off tonight with the Montreal-New England match, any other news, we'll get caught up on all those basics. And then if we need to throw in an additional hour or so before or after the run-up, we'll figure that out tomorrow night as we get ready for Atlanta and Red Bulls on Saturday. Maybe if there is an interest in it, you guys can let us know on Twitch and on Twitter. If you would want a Saturday morning show, we might be able to make that up for you guys and do a Saturday morning show before everything gets crazy and I'm in a studio the rest of the day. So it's hectic, and thanks for bearing with us, and thanks for finding us today at this time, because these times are going to be crazy during this tournament. Okay, yep. Everything on Twitch to finish off. Bernd Dursberger, our Bundesliga correspondent. Hwang just went from Salzburg to Leipzig, the 25th transfer from Red Bull Salzburg to Leipzig. Now, what I want to start seeing more of is the New York to Salzburg and or Leipzig moves. And Tyler Adams is the big one. Duncan could be another one. There could be more. I'm surprised Aaron Long hasn't factored into that, but he's a little bit older. So let's see if more of that happens. But yeah, the Red Bull umbrella, it's a thing, and I think they can get more out of New York if they do. I think New York can be a bigger club than Salzburg can, for example. I think they can make more money for the organization in New York than they can in Salzburg, but I think it's treated more like the third team. It should be the second, in my opinion. I think MLS is a better league for them economically, and I think it's a better league, period, than the Austrian Bundesliga. Yeah. I do. Ropes talking about the knockout rounds. He thinks the level will be much better once you get to that point. I think you'll see significant improvement each game. I think you will. I think the game 2 for everybody will look very different than game 1. But yeah, it's going to take 3 games under everybody's belt, but then adding that knockout scenario to it, that's going to up the stakes too. And the intensity is going to be more. It could be sloppier because of that. But I think it's going to be game 3 in the group stage where you see teams play their best. The good teams, anyway. The teams that have issues, they're going to have issues regardless. KFC was a big fan of Jennifer Cujo last night. Former Asheville City women's player as well, if you did not know that. Asheville City's been very happy to watch their former teammate playing for Sky Blue and doing really well in the NWSL Challenge Cup. Also, a reminder from KFC, this might have flown under the radar with everything going on. We mentioned that Turner had bowed out of the Champions League TV package. Well, now CBS has picked it up a year and a half early. So the matches in August in Champions League and Europa League and everything going forward for the next 4 years will be on the CBS family of networks. So if you were on that bubble of, man, I want to get the all access. I want to watch the NWSL, but I don't want another subscription service. Well, now they got Champions League too. So you can do it. Do it. You can do it. And then watch the games on Sunday and Monday. And you might have to have two screens. Look, I get it set up in here. Last night I had ESPN over here where my right hand is, and I had NWSL over here, and it worked out pretty well. It can be done.
All right.
Oh, no, I'm not done yet. There's more. Twitch has been busy, man.
Well, Chicago Fire have moved, and we've got their schedule.
Well, it's the schedule, right?
Chicago Fire Group B. They play Seattle Tuesday, breakfast on Tuesday, the 14th. They've got San Jose Sunday for the 8 o'clock game against San Jose on the 19th, and then they play Vancouver Thursday the 23rd, breakfast with the Whitecaps. So there you go.
Holy cow!
Man, I wish he would have called a game. That would have been awesome if Harry Carey called soccer.
Karl-Heinz Granitza.
What?
Of the Wild Front. You know how he would always sing, like, Jody Davis, catcher of the year?
I thought that was late in the game after the Budweisers were flowing.
Well, it might have been early in the game.
Well, it depending on the day. Maybe. Yeah. Talking about players to be afraid of. Tesco goes with Breck Shea. Tesco, you might be a little disingenuous there. I liked Breck. Breck got a lot of stick. Breck got a lot of stick here. It wasn't fair. I like Breck. Breck is a serviceable left back / left winger at this point in his career in this league. He's still very good in the 1v1s. He's not a all-star. I don't know if he's a starter game in, game out. But is he a good player you'd like to have on the bench? And especially in 1v1 situations off the bench? Yep. I'll take him. Yes. I'll take him there. Chris Ashley is afraid of Julian Gressel. I'm not if he plays as a number 10 for DC. He needs to play out wide. They're in this really weird stuck thing because they've got a team that doesn't exactly match up into the right shape for the players they have. I think they'd be better off in the 4-2-3-1 to play Gressel on the right and Flores in the middle. Ben Olsen has went the other way. He's flipped those two guys. Okay. As we've seen here in a 3-5-2 scenario, that's where Gressel's the best as a wingback, but then it's very hard for Ben Olsen to find a way to get Ola Kamara, Yamil Assad, Edison Flores, and your holding midfield all on the field together in a 3-5-2. So I don't know what direction you go, and you get stuck sometimes where it's like you want to get your best 11 players on the field, but they don't exactly fit in that shape. So then you might have to sacrifice one of your better players, have them come off the bench to have a better team. I think that's what DC hasn't figured out yet. So if Gressel's playing as a 10, not afraid of him. If he's playing as a winger, yes, once he develops a connection with Ola Kamara. Let's see here. Mrs. Claus wants in 2021 to mic up LGP and Joseph for the Atlanta-Miami match.
Oh,
I'm down. I mean, you're going to have to do it after the game to play the audio because you're going to have to clean that up a lot.
Yeah, that's going to be a bleep fest.
But yeah, if you can find a way to talk them into it, I am so into that. That would be awesome. That would be very, very cool. Let's see as we wrap up because man, y'all had a lot of conversation on here, which is awesome.
Good.
That's what I'm talking about. We're just here to facilitate. Atlanta Phoenix asks, what platform do we use to watch 2DNA games in the tourney? YouTube TV. I think so. I believe Fubo would be able to help you with that as well. I watch it through. I'm old school. I've got Uverse. Uverse has been pretty good to me, and I've got a pretty good deal locked in. So he's on Xfinity over there. That's how he gets 2DNA. So the streaming services, I'm not 100% up to speed. I'm pretty sure Fubo and YouTube TV have got you. You can also watch them like you normally can on Twitter. So you can pull them up on Twitter. It'll have the English language commentary, and you can do it that way. So keep that in mind if you don't have 2DNA available at the moment. Tesco with a good point talking about trash talk, and Betts Mulroney picked up a few things in Scotland. I don't know if anybody could understand it.
But still, you might not have to bleep them and worry about that too. See, I could see Jake. That'd be good.
Yeah, I'd like to hear Jake Mulroney talk some trash. That'd be fun. We have some votes for a Saturday morning show, so that might happen. We will see. PSA, wear a mask, according to Chiefs coach Steve. I agree.
Yes, wear a mask.
I believe in the city of Atlanta it is now mandatory, correct?
Accurate.
In public places, so.
Accurate, yeah.
Get it done. Get it done. YouTube TV does not have 2-day NA. Thank you, Badgermon. Oh. Shelly Ray and Badgermon are at loggerheads. One says yes and one says no. I'll let you all play rock, paper, scissors and figure that
there
out.
You go. That's the 3.
Yeah, Fubu has it, I'm pretty sure. Fubo TV. Fubu, I don't know if they have it or not. I had a Fubu sweatshirt. I liked it. I was back in my DJ days. Pretty cool. It was like ice blue. I dug it.
There you go.
All right. Any other news we have to touch on before we go?
Not particularly that can't keep, so we're in good shape.
Okay. Let's see if the Thursdays with Reddit wants to entertain us. Sometimes you get that crazy story to end the show that I'm scrolling for to see. I don't know why he would want to do it, but Jorge Jesus, the manager at Flamengo, is potentially interested in going back to Benfica. I don't want to get rocks thrown at my bus, so I would not take that gig.
Lazio's Patrick got 4 matches for biting Lecce's Donati. That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's about right. In case negotiations break down for Benfica on Jesus, they might look to signing Marcelo Gallardo from River Plate. I don't think Gallardo would take that. There'd be no reason to go to Benfica at that point. I think he's going to end up in France when he moves to Europe. Yeah,
all right, I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it for me because Trooper is being Uber Gwen, so I've got to go walking.
Well, that means it's time to go. So we will be back at some point in the morning, at some point tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll have the run up at 7:00 tomorrow. So thanks, you guys. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.